Hi everybody, I'm Dave from the Polypad team, and in this video I am going to give an overview of the recording feature on Polypad. I am here at a blank Polypad, and you'll notice down in the toolbar at the bottom of the screen there is a recording option that appears. When I click this, I have two options for the recording that I'm about to create. I can decide if I want to capture the audio. I'm going to keep that on so you can see how that works, and whether I want the recording to capture the movements of my cursor, which I'm going to keep that on. Haven't started the recording yet. In this video, I'm going to show you one quick example just how the recording works, and then dive into a use case of a teacher who might want to use the recording to set some instructions for students for an activity that they are going to complete. So just to show you a basic overview of how the recording works, I'll just add a few tiles onto the canvas. I'm going to go to the recording option in the toolbar, click Start Recording. You'll see I have this new item in the toolbar where I can stop it and it tells me how long the recording is going for. And now, I can move the tiles around the canvas. I can rotate them and then move them again. I'm going to hit stop now just so we can see how the recording works. When I push stop, I get this tile on the canvas that holds all the data of the recording. And so now what we can see is if I push play, you're going to hear the audio from my recording as well as see the movements of those tiles. Here we go. You'll see it. I have this new item in the toolbar where I can stop it and it tells me how long the recording is going for. And now, I can move the tiles around the canvas. I can rotate them and then move them again. I'm going to hit stop now just so we can see how the recording works. Great. So this is like any other tile on the Polypad. You could put it in a certain spot. You could lock it in place. A few things just to note about how the recording works. There is a scrubber, so you can go forward and backwards in the recording. If at some point I stop here and I move this to a different spot, and maybe I move this one over here, when I push play again, those tiles are going to go back to where they were in the recording. The tiles around the canvas. You see that just happening right there. I can add other tiles to the canvas as I'm watching the recording. So maybe you as a teacher or a student are giving instructions for other people to do, and so you're modeling something at the top, and then the students could be adding additional tiles of their own at the bottom as they're watching the recording. And you see when I push play, those will just stay in place because they weren't part of the tiles in the recording. Rotate them and then move them again. I'm going to hit stop now just so we can see. There we go. So quick overview of how it works. Let me dive into a more elaborate example here where a use case I want to share is a teacher adding instructions to an activity for students. So I'm going to click and drag to select all of these, hit delete. And the activity that I have in mind is using the rectangle tile to explore the relationship between area and perimeter. I'm going to go to the More Tools menu, and you may know we have these compute tiles where I can click the area, and I get this tile that shows the area of that rectangle and the perimeter. So I'll add that as well. As I change the size of the tiles, those will update as I do it. Let me turn on a grid, and I'll put these at the top of the screen, and I'll start with I'll do a 6x10 rectangle. There we go. And so the activity that I have in mind for students is I want them to explore finding different areas and perimeter of this rectangle. Maybe something like find all the different rectangles that have an area of 24 and keep track of the different perimeters that they find. So that's a lot of instructions to give in writing. I'd have to show them how to use the handle, maybe add the data to a table. Instead, I can use the recording feature to show how that's going to work. So I'm going to start a recording where I'm going to document my instructions for students, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so here we go. I'll start my recording. Hey students, in this activity you're going to explore the area and perimeter of this rectangle that I have here on the canvas. Uh, Notice this currently has an area of 6 and a perimeter of 10, but when I click on the rectangle, I can click and drag the circle in the bottom right to change the size of the rectangle. And as I do that, you'll see the area and perimeter change as well. So now I have a rectangle of area 10 and perimeter of 14. I'm going to go back to the 6 by 10. Your challenge, your task in this activity is to find all rectangles that you can that have an area of 24 and keep track of all the different perimeters that you find. So you could use the pen tool to keep track of the perimeters. You could write them down on a piece of paper. However you want to keep track of those, that would be great. But see if you can find as many rectangles as you can with an area of 24 and then keep track of those perimeters. Okay, so I've hit stop on my recording. I will put this up here. Let me zoom over a little bit. When I push play, you'll hear the audio and see some of the movements. I'm not going to play the entire minute of this. Hey students, in this activity you're going to explore the area and perimeter of this rectangle that I have here on the canvas. Notice this currently has an area of 6 and a perimeter of 10, but when I click on the rectangle, I can click and drag the circle in the bottom right to change the size of the rectangle. And as I do that, you'll see the area and perimeter change as well. So now I have a rectangle of area 10 and perimeter of 14. I'm going to go back to the 6 by 10. I'll stop there so students could see all these instructions. Maybe I want to change this color to like that. Let's do a darker green, and we could make this one red just so it like stands out a little bit. And then I could save this and then share the link to students. A few things just to point out is maybe we don't want students to like delete the recording or copy it. So I'm going to go into authoring mode. If you've never explored how to do some of these features in authoring mode, when I go to the File tab over here, there is a toggle to turn on authoring mode and a Learn More button. So you can click that button. It'll take you to the authoring mode tutorial that you can read a little bit about. And then this takes you to even more documentation about how to do all these things inside of authoring mode. But I will go into authoring mode here, and I'm going to go to the More Tools menu, go to Authoring, and under Interactivity, there's a drop-down menu. I know you're not able to see the drop-down menu, but I'm going to change this drop-down to Cannot Move or Delete. So I've changed that to a Cannot Move or Delete option. I'm also going to do the same on this rectangle because I don't want students to delete the rectangle by accident. If I make it cannot move or delete, they'll still have access to the handle. They just won't be able to actually click and drag the entire rectangle. So I'll change this to cannot move or delete. And now when I go out of authoring mode, you'll see on the recording tile, I can still copy it. I can still have, students would still be able to turn off the cursor or hear the audio, which I actually don't want any of those options to appear here. So I'm going to go back into authoring mode and close authoring. And under action visibility, I can turn off all of those items that appear in the action bar. So by unchecking these, it's controlling what appears in the action bar when you're outside of authoring mode. I can still see them here because I'm in authoring mode. I'll go out of authoring mode. And now you can see when I click on this, all I can do is play. Your challenge, your task, great. I could also think about what I want to do with this rectangle. You can see I'm still inside. I'm outside of authoring mode. I'm trying to move this around. I can't, but I'm still able to change the size of the rectangle. I don't want students to flip it or play it or change the scale or add new compute tiles. I want to turn all those things off. So really all they can do is just move the rectangle around. So I go back into authoring mode, close that section, close that section. It's the action visibility. Really, I just want to turn off all of these things. A lot of these options are in the music section, but really all of those things I just want to turn off. I go out of authoring mode, And now you can see I can move this, but I can't do anything else with it. So that really allows me to control what students can do. If I wanted them to make copies of all their rectangles, right? So like if they found one and then they wanted to copy that and drag it over here, I could have kept the copy feature on if that was something that I wanted to do. And the final thing, again, those are able to be moved and tabulate and all sorts of options here. I want to turn all those off as well. So I'll go into authoring mode, select them both, and you can see there's all sorts of things that I have to turn off when multiple of them, when two of those things are selected. There's all sorts of other compute tiles that I could do with those two numbers that are selected. I could find their difference, their standard deviation, etc. I don't want to do any of that stuff here. In fact, it might even be better just to go into authoring, and under interactivity, I'm going to make these locked so then students aren't able to move them at all. Okay, so now I'm seeing what a student would see. I can't move any of these around. These are fully locked, but they still update as I move the rectangle. I could add a text box here like push play to hear the instructions. And maybe make this a little bit bigger. Make it bold, and I'll go into authoring mode and I will lock this as well. Interactivity locked. So when students get here, they're not able to move it. So I'm going to save this. I'll put the link in the comments of the video. I have this like embedded instructions that not only has the audio of the instructions, but show students how to interact with the rectangle on the screen. So let me just save this. You can see I have a saved URL right here that I will put into the comments of the video. Lots of other use cases of the recording tile. Here I'm using it as a tutorial for students. I think it could be really powerful as a student use case for them to make a summary of their thinking of like how to solve a problem. Maybe you want them to solve a fraction addition problem, and they use the fraction bars that we have to think about finding common denominators. Maybe it's 4/5 and 2/3 or something, and they understand how to use the rename button to find common denominators. And you want them to make a recording of their thinking and share it with you so you can both see how they're using the tiles and hear their thinking at the same time. So that's a powerful use case. Lots of other ideas that we will be sharing with this recording feature. Would love to hear from folks how they are using it in their work as well. So please share those in the comments, share them on social media. Lots of ways to get in touch with us. Thanks very much.